When Darla and I got married, we knew we wanted to go into full-time ministry for the Lord. In 1992, we answered the call to service at Camp Ida Haven. With the help and inspiration of Milford and Grace Terrell, we started the journey of making camp what it is today. We were able to make a difference, and we were blessed at the same time.
It's been a great 30 years, and we have loved the friends we have made and call Idaho our home. And as we transition to a different phase of service, we want to share a few memories from some of those who have answered the call of service with us.
To me, when we hired Douglas and Darla, we didn't really have a firm picture of a mission for the camp. Our hope was to improve the camp and to make it more of a spiritual atmosphere on a year-round basis, but definitely mostly centered with the campers. And when Douglas and Darla came, they took that mission and ran with it. They were inspired, and by being inspired, they inspired us. And the mission developed over the course of 30 years, and I believe it's still going on. And all of these people joined in. All of these people became motivated to be a part of the mission. And that was greatly inspired by Douglas and Darla, by their leadership and their allowing people to lead, to do things on their own. Well, we have been abundantly blessed.
We have always loved God's purpose for the camp that touches not only the campers and the staff, but the families' lives with Christ's influence.
Supporting this kind of Christ-like call of service is a blessing for all who choose to become involved. We know this legacy of service has and will continue for many generations to come.
Yes, we do.
Douglas, not Doug, but Douglas, I am so thankful for the leadership and the mentoring you have shown to your young camp staff for the past 30 years, the trust you so generously shared, and the work ethic that you inspired. I am thankful for your humble attitude, and even though I was often the one sweating and getting dirty, you would remind me that I was your boss and you worked for me. And you are amazing in the sky ski. You listen and you learn well. Darla, your leadership, your interactions with the staff, campers, and parents was always an inspiration to me. You have trained and inspired those that follow you so well. You can live with confidence that the traditions you have developed will be sustained. And to the both of you, Douglas and Darla, though you may not be at the camp going forward, the legacy you have both created will last forever.
Douglas and Darla, it has been a privilege to work with you over the years. Your commitment to Camp Ida Haven and to Jesus has been so evident throughout your ministry in the Idaho Conference. You have blessed so many lives, including my life personally and the lives of my grandchildren. While you will be greatly missed, the legacy you leave will continue until Jesus returns. Thank you again for blessing my life. We love you.
We find ourselves celebrating the 30 years of dedicated service of Darla and Douglas to the kids and staff of Camp Ida Haven. Darla and Douglas have always made it about God, the staff, the kids, and the constituents, often of which were volunteers and never about themselves. That in turn allowed the aforementioned to take the praise at times and gave them the opportunity to deal with, well, let's just call it the challenges. And they did it with the call to service that special people often do. I've had the opportunity to directly work for 8 presidents of companies in my career, and I've never worked with but only a few that could inspire, convey a vision, and execute with the passion that they did, all while remembering everyone's names, using missteps of camp personnel as learning opportunities for them and others, and facing all those opportunities of camp with a sense of compassion. D&D, you know where you stand with us. And all that are here have wished you the best. And you know where you stand with Bruce and Bethany. The legacy continues with them. And it now becomes the focus of all of us to support that same call to service for them. Bethany and Bruce, you have our number 2. Count on us to support your vision, your passion, and the purpose. D&D, this is your day. Absorb it, reflect on it, and on the countless numbers of people that you've positively influenced the lives of. You've earned it all.
I got to come to camp as a camper and experience what I would call the magic of camp. And so to join the team as a staff member and be part of that fine-tuned machine that makes the magic happen has been one of the best experiences of my life. And that type of leadership that encourages people to use the gifts that God has given them to take a program and run with it has brought camp to the amazing place that it is today, and I know that it will continue to grow.
My first summer, I immediately found a very like-minded mission and felt very welcomed and at home. I felt like it was someplace that I just could have always been at, and was very happy to be there, and I felt like I fit in right away. And that was probably in part by how Douglas and Darla had set up the sense of community. They were very clear about their goals and what they wanted and how they wanted to instill each person who worked there and came to camp, where they fit in, how they fit in, and that they did fit in.
At first, I basically just went following Nicole, since we were dating at the time, and just sort of going every weekend to visit. But I quickly found a place where my skills were not only appreciated, but like very much needed and welcomed. And no matter how big or great the contribution was or how small it was always welcomed. And it was a very friendly and inviting place to go. And it quickly became something that grew in my heart, some place that like really attached itself to my heart. And of course, Douglas and Darla are two of the people that made it such a welcoming and warm and friendly and home-like atmosphere. And I know that the spirit of what they've started will be carried forward.
Ida Haven to me quickly became my second home after my first summer there. And since then, I've always looked forward to hearing how it's growing, how it's changing, and the direction that it will continue to go in. Douglas and Darla have brought success to that camp with the help of many other people, and I look forward to seeing the continued success of the camp, to seeing it grow, to seeing it influence young kids and coming up and knowing who Jesus is and what his love is all about. I can't wait to send my children there. In fact, I got my first one. It's going to be going this summer, and I can't wait to go and visit and just see all the old familiar faces that bring me joy every time I hear their names. So thank you for giving me a second home, and thank you for making sure that Camp Ida Haven is in good hands going forward. Love you guys.
When I think about camp, the first word that comes to mind is family. Because like we mentioned before, it's not just about you go and you have a summer job. Many of the people that you end up working with end up becoming lifelong friends and family members.
When we started there, working in the summers, clear back in the mid-90s, there was a group of people that we got very close with, Douglas and Darla as part of that group. And that family has continued. It's not just a summer job and you're out after a year. We put several years in, cultivated those relationships and grew very close with some of those people. And now it is Bruce and Bethany in that leadership role for camp. And those are some of the people that we had a chance to work with back in the 90s and grow very close to then. And that relationship has continued on for many, many years.
I've been fortunate to spend at least part of the past 24 summers working with Douglas and Darla at Camp Ida Haven. During those summers, I have learned many things from them. Here are the top 5. I learned I can actually accomplish tasks that I think are too big, too complicated, too expensive, or when I really don't think I know what I'm doing. I learned how camp can build brand equity. I learned that everyone can have fun for at least a week by playing hard, singing loud, and eating good vegetarian food, all while keeping a focus on God. I learned how to cook that good vegetarian food for 200 people at a time. And I learned that you can take a rundown, worn-out camp and turn it into a top-notch camp that kids line up to get into through vision, caring, and a lot of hard work. Thank you, Douglas and Darla, for teaching me and hundreds of others what servant leadership means. May your fun never end.
I've gone from camper to young staff member to old staff member, now more on the outskirts. But I've wanted to remain a camp supporter for a couple reasons. One, I love Douglas and Darla like everybody else. I could say a lot, but in short, they're amazing to be around. Being in their presence has always inspired me to be a better human being, and they will always have a special place in my heart. The second reason is the picture of God shared at camp is the picture I want all kids to see. It's a picture I always go back to in my adult life amidst the chaos and has recentered me many times. I'm forever grateful for the time at camp and look forward to seeing it continue to impact the lives of kids.
Camp not only attracts the best kids who want to go play outside, get off their devices and experience fun, but at the same time they're getting the experience peppered in of God, and everywhere they turn, the nightly programs or whatever, they get an example of fun and Christianity that's pretty rare in society. The mission isn't just those campers. As young teenagers, we benefited from the example that Douglas and Darla gave us.
Douglas and Darla gave us the opportunity to go from kids to adults in an environment where we were supported and given responsibility, but by people who were willing to both teach and goof around with us. I'll never forget Douglas trying to speak Spanish and Darla saying, "I smell man flesh covered in mud." But that's the beauty of camp, where we all learned to be ourselves, but to have a higher purpose and to make a difference in the lives of kids.
One of my first years as a camper, it just so happened to be Douglas and Darla's first year as camp directors at Ida Haven. And I took this little drama class, didn't even have a speaking role, but man, was I hooked when it came to theater. And fast forward, I had the opportunity to come back as drama director and then later as the program director. And let me tell you, there is nothing that can develop you as a leader more than teaching 8 to 15-year-olds. It's like this beautiful blend of super hard work, creative programming, humor, and finding those teachable moments. Or if you've worked with Douglas, you'd hear the metaphors. And that just developed me personally, even as a leader. And I saw the people around me developed as leaders. So it wasn't just about the campers themselves, but it was also about us who were kind of helping develop this program as well alongside Douglas and Darla.
Camp Ida Haven is a place where God's love is shown to others through acts of service. Service to others takes many shapes and forms. For Douglas and Darla, this was done with every meal they prepared, every camper they welcomed, and every staff they molded. Some would say Douglas and Darla were perfect for the leadership roles they held at camp. I would argue they were imperfectly perfect. Most of today's leaders try to hide their imperfections. They posture, boast, and only let you see the best of what they have to offer. Thankfully, Douglas and Darla are better leaders than most. They led with openness, humility, patience, oh so much patience, and grace. They allowed their staff room to make mistakes and thus to grow. They gave us opportunities to serve, create, lead, succeed, and, yes, fail. Because it turns out we are all imperfectly perfect. So, my dear friends Douglas and Darla, I want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us into your hearts and quite literally your home. Thank you for helping me and all the others who have been blessed to work for you and beside you to become our better selves. You have helped us achieve greater things. You have helped us show others God's love. And I can see these greater things happening in Bruce and Bethany as they now answer God's call to serve at camp. And I, for one, am excited to see what this new future of camp holds, for I know it is in good hands, however imperfectly perfect those hands may be.
As we reflect on the blessings we have received in answering the call, we're so excited to see what the new leadership of camp will facilitate.
We join with the many supporters who have and continue to lift up the mission and potential that is Camp Ida Haven.
Although our roles have changed, our commitment is still as strong.
And it's still the place where the fun never ends.
Douglas and Darla, thank you from the hundreds of us whom you've inspired, taught, and given so much grace to. It has been such a privilege to stand on your shoulders to see the future and what it can be. With your principles, support, and example, we look forward to being the underpinnings for future generations as they stand on our shoulders to see their futures.
We talk about camp as if it were a living, breathing person, and in a way it is. All of the campers, staff, volunteers, and especially D&D have made this a place like no other. I believe with all my heart, in the beginning, God created camp.
It has been life-changing to learn from Douglas and Darla, true servant leaders. I'm greatly looking forward to the best camp directors I know, to now becoming the best camp supporters.
With so many memories and immeasurable love for camp, it is an honor for us to be able to follow in your footsteps, Douglas and Darla. An honor to be able to answer the call to service. We believe in the mission of camp, and we are excited to carry it forward. And thanks to you guys, we truly are a fine-tuned machine.
Before there was a main lodge, before the old one too, before there was a bathhouse to hold all of our poo, before the cabin circle Douglas built with his bare hands. Remember in the beginning, God created camp. Camp is more than snow cones, it's more than challenge course, it's more than Smyrnley singing, he sounds like a dying horse. It's more than catching jet skis, and if there's one thing you should know, it's the folks that fill these cabins that make it feel like a home. And when the last skid is done, and when the last chord is strung, seems like we've just begun, but now we must part. But at the end of the show, what the odds don't know is that the fun will never end. In our hearts, in our hearts. We'll sing it from the creek bed to the treetops with all our might. And if anyone comes between us, their faces we will smite. Microbursts may come, but they'll never blow it down. This forest is our church. This is hallowed ground. When the last skid is done, when the last chord is strung, it seems like we've just begun, but we must part. But at the end of the show, what the odds don't know is that the fun will never end. In our hearts, in our hearts. In our hearts. We all know the last day of camp is the worst. We spend all year waiting to come back and quench the thirst. People may be leaving, but don't let that make you sad.